Donald Trump, arguably, he deserves, he deserves to be either, well, arguably he deserves to be killed, but I don't want to kill him. I think that's letting him off the hook. He's already old. And that's true of George Bush. I don't want to kill him either. That would be letting him off the hook. What they deserve to be raped and then endure deprival. They should be raped and they should be beaten up and raped. And then they should be forced to work. And what Nicolas Maduro deserves, he should be sent to Bolivia, where Evo Morales has henchmen who don't have a mustache, to grab Nicolas Maduro. Evo Morales' henchmen should grab Nicolas Maduro so that Evo Morales can rape Nicolas Maduro. That's what Nicolas Maduro deserves. Nicolas Maduro does not deserve to be handled by Trump. Trump is a villain. He's worse than Nicolas Maduro. Donald Trump is worse than Nicolas Maduro. So Donald Trump should be a slave, and he should be raped. And George Bush, also Elon Musk and Barack Obama, in addition to George Bush and Emperor Charles, all of them should be slaves who get raped. They should be forced to live in poverty and give their money to me. Let me have a large share of their money. Of course, you wouldn't want to give too much of their money to me, or else I would become too wealthy and my opinions would become too strong and maybe I would make mistakes. But take a lot of their money and give it to me, and give the rest of their money to charity so that they have to live in poverty. And the royals in Britain and the Roman Empire, the British Empire and the Roman Empire, the royals are too involved in, especially the British. It seems to be they're the most involved, but maybe also the Spanish were saying, "You are not sensitive enough to Native Americans. We, the Spanish, we kept our Native Americans alive, and you, with your big British forehead, your big English forehead, you are one like those who killed all the Native Americans, and you got those African lips like Bob Marley, a Buffalo Soldier, killing all the Native Americans, and we, the Spanish, we kept our Native Americans, and we live with them." Well, that would all be very accurate and true, and that would be a very legitimate reaction if there had ever been any Native Americans. But it seems the Spanish brought them from Manila, from the Philippines archipelago. So I call them Manila Pacific Asians. And see, the Spanish went off nasty on me, because the Jews in middle school told me there was a man, a Spaniard named Pizarro, and he tortured and abducted Native Americans, and so did, Christopher Columbus. Tortured and abducted Native Americans and all this. And well, actually, the Spanish, to their credit, helped the Philippines Pacific Asian, a breed of Pacific Asian that's mixed with Spanish and African in the city of Manila in the Philippines archipelago, brought them to Central America, and brought apparently more Africans and more Pacific Asians and more Spanish, and then mixed them all together to create the same Philippines Pacific Asian, except for it's less Asian in Central America. They're less Asian, but they're compatible. Spanish speakers in Manila who are compatible socially with the Central American and Latin American Pacific Asian and Spanish mixture. So the Spanish brought them to America. They're good people. I wish I could get a wife. Some of those sexy women, but I haven't had the opportunity because the Spanish got so angry at me. And the Spanish and the King Emperor Felipe is the emperor of the Roman Empire, and the Roman Empire is Latin America is an extension of the Roman Empire. France is our ally because France bisected the Roman Empire. And so that's great that France is our ally. That explains finally why France is more important than Britain, arguably, because France bisected the Roman Empire. Because it used to be continuously Roman Empire from Spain to Italy until the middle segment became part of French nationalism and became part of the French nation. And the British have a lot of influence in France. So France is our greatest ally, most strategic ally, and Britain is a rival. The British Empire is a sort of a rival and a sort of saboteur who hates the United States. So the French state is the most important ally to the USA. And so the idea of French Nazis was actually a great idea, more important than, see, the Nazi idea is not as useful in Eastern Europe because it's kind of like out there in the wilderness of Eastern Europe. It's not as useful, the Nazi idea is not as useful in Germany as it is in France. So the idea of the Nazi, well, Hitler didn't murder Jews, so we don't have to answer to Jewish critics of Hitler. Hitler's problem was that he was like the British, the Spanish, and Abraham Lincoln and George Washington. Hitler was the same with that history of hating the USA because of the idea of Native Americans and the idea of African slavery. So Hitler was like, I know everything about your bad, evil deeds in America. I, Adolf Hitler, I'm aware of your evil deeds in America, what you did to the Native Americans, what you did to the African Americans, and we Germans, we've done no such things, or very little compared to you in America. We've done much fewer atrocities against the people of color. And so Adolf Hitler says, you Americans are not the leaders. We Germans are the true leaders of white civilization, and you Americans are too corrupted by your evil deeds against Africans and Native Americans. And we will take the leadership from now on, we Germans. And so Hitler was not aware that there had never been any racial slavery of Africans, and no such person as a Native American had ever existed, because the Spanish brought them from the Philippines archipelago, or the other ones arrived recently from Siberia to Alaska. So Hitler was not terrible, but he wasn't right. So the idea of Hitler, what Hitler was right about, well, the freedom to opt out of forced racial integration, the freedom of a collective racial right, a collective racial freedom to opt out in a large part, and let people vote with their feet to self-segregate. And so then you have, the result would be integrated districts and racially uniform districts that are separated by segregation barriers, city walls and such. So, and that's a good idea for reducing the level of racial competition, because excessive racial competition leads to male gender slavery, and eventually it would lead to cannibalism of unwanted males who would be dying of suicide and negligence and starvation and all. I mean, it's getting worse and worse. The human cruelty to animals is guaranteed in the distant future. In the not too distant future, our cruelty to animals is going to come back to us in the form of cannibalism, people eating people. And that is a guaranteed bad karma consequence of our cruelty to animals, because we're being too greedy against the animals without being considerate enough of their quality of life and their opportunity, because we're completely circumventing their process of natural selection, and all of them are dying. So what wasn't done to the Jews wasn't done to Native Americans. Nobody's a Native American. And it wasn't done to the black Africans. It wasn't done to the Jews, the blacks, or the Native Americans. There's no Native Americans. There's never been any racial slavery, and it was never done to the Jews by the Egyptians. But it's what we're doing to animals. And the long-term result will be human cannibalism. unless we can stop overpopulating the world, it will certainly result in the Soylent Green scenario and the cruelty to animals. We're building up bad karma, and it's going to have terrible consequences if we don't stop being so cruel to the animals. And that's much more consequential versus the idea of global warming, which has not yet begun. The global warming and climate change has not yet begun by my calculations. So people really don't want to talk about cruelty to animals because that directly impacts their food supply and their food consumption. Every time I drink milk, I wanted to say it every time I would purchase milk, but everybody strenuously ignores me so that I don't get anyone to talk to. And I don't get a chance to say, if we milk the cow, we should not eat her. If we're going to eat the cow, we should not have milked her. And that's something people need to think about. So anyway, I guess that's all for now. I don't remember where this started. Denouncing Trump and Bush and Musk and Obama and Emperor Charles. They're all wretched, and they should be injected with estrogen. They should be forced to be slaves enduring pornography and prostitution. Is what they deserve to be. Prostitutes, slaves who get raped on camera. That's what they deserve. And it's not a crime if you rape someone who's a rapist. It's not a crime to rape them. So we're only talking about wretched old enemy coalition patriarchs who deserve to get raped. Frankly, they do. So that's all for this video.